Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your day. My name is Ethan Lassiter with the Department of Planning and Development, here to present the Austin RFP community presentations. Actually, at this early stage, I'll actually pass it over to the Department of Planning and Development's Commissioner, Commissioner Maurice Cox. Take it away.
Thank you, Ethan. So welcome everyone. So I'm just thrilled to join you tonight for the first of two meetings that highlight the responses to the city's RFP request for proposals for the former Laramie Bank building and the adjacent properties at Chicago and Laramie Avenues. So thank you all for tuning in. As you know, this former bank is a designated city landmark that is an iconic Austin neighborhood asset that's graced this intersection for more than 90 years. So today it stands as a witness to Mayor Lightfoot's commitment to the revitalization of the South and the West Sides through the Invest Southwest initiative. So in conjunction with Alderman Mitz and you, the Austin community, our collective goal here is to restore this intersection of Chicago and Laramie to its rightful role as a critical shopping, mixed use, and pedestrian-oriented destination. It's the front door of the entire community. That starts with the former bank. We're going to get a great look at the developer responses tonight and tomorrow to the community's vision for the site. And so for those of you who are joining us for the first time tonight, I say welcome. The city has never approached a development opportunity with such a community-driven way before. So we're grateful and we're excited about your presence tonight. You are instrumental in helping to shape this process. And we just look forward to your comments both during and after the meeting. So thanks again for your participation and your commitment to the future of Chicago Avenue. Thanks, Ethan.
Thank you. With that, I'll very briefly run over our agenda for today. Again, welcome everyone for coming. I'll do a quick recap of kind of this RFP process and what we've seen so far. We have 3 developer presentations tonight. Tomorrow night, same time, we have 4 presentations. And then at the very end, I'll detail kind of next steps in this evaluation process. But really getting into it, again, thank you for coming to this RFP process. As the commissioner has noted, this is really helping to advance us in selecting a winning entry for this RFP. We have 3 goals for tonight: to meet the actual developer teams, to learn about detailed proposals, and then to ask questions and provide feedback for each of the development proposals. Today's process, again, is broken up into this initial chunk of time that we are in right now, followed by 3 different developer presentations and Q&A sessions, which really is room for all people attending the call, all community stakeholders to get involved in feedback and Q&A, and then followed by kind of our next steps process and what that will look like. So very briefly recapping this RFP process before we get into the developer presentations. This is part of a ongoing and long-going process that started with establishing the Invest Southwest roundtables and building a RFP based on previous plans, including the quality of life plan, stakeholder interviews, and a visioning workshop held in the summer. We then released the RFP in August, late August, got development teams to respond to that RFP, which were due at the end of 2020. And we're now in this evaluation phase, this step 3. This is the first of 2 nights of presentations, as you'll note, but this is also not intended to be the end of the engagement process, the community input process by any means. And again, noting that There's certainly a lot more detail in the actual RFP document, but we are quite familiar with the existing condition of the Laramie State Bank building with help from pro bono design assistance from CCAC. We had a vision presented in the RFP that all the development teams were responding to that we think aligned with what we heard through the visioning process, through previous plans, and through engagement. Given that, as stated previously, there are 3 teams presenting tonight: Holston Development with New Moms, 548 Development, and Evergreen Redevelopment and Imagine Group together. Again, what to keep in mind when providing feedback and providing Q&As. Generally, your overall impression of each proposal is certainly appreciated, what excites you or concerns you. And then noting at the detail provided in the RFP document that all the development teams had to respond to. At a high level, we can group those into the community wealth building. How well do they incorporate minority-owned development teams, local business, local hiring, experience or practice on the west side? And then how much is kind of their actual design, their professionalism and skill set appropriate for this site? And how will this feedback be incorporated? First off, DPD will be recording this meeting and posting it online, as it already is live streaming. We'll be synthesizing all comments, Q&As, and feedback received. At the end of these presentations, an online survey will also go out that can be filled out within the next week. And from that, based on community feedback, our internal review process, and financial feasibility, the intention is to present back a summary of all of that evaluation, a kind of tiered list, what we believe we have heard from the community and from our internal process about which seems to be the top candidate or the top couple candidates. After selecting, negotiation process will continue, tweaking and engagement will continue. So now we can move on to our developer team presentations. To help facilitate in this, Claudette Baker will be our facilitator. Claudette, if you want to introduce yourself and walk through the following slide.
Hey, I'm sorry, Ethan, is there space for questions about the decision-making process before you get into the presentations?
I guess go for it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just wanted to get a little bit of a clearer understanding on like what part the community itself is going to have in making the decision and who actually receives this RFP. Like how much of is it just opinion? Would people be at the table as far as making a decision? How is that going to work?
So because the actual acquisition authority to issue an RFP is a city process and we legally can't involve non-city staff in that process, the legal decision is with the city. However, our intention is certainly that this process, this feedback is incorporated into the decision. The evaluation summary is literally supposed to be us telling you, this is what we've heard collectively from this audience. And then we do have the February roundtable to say, you know, this is what we heard, this is not what we heard. If all we hear tonight is we like pizza, the evaluation summary better say we like pizza to an extent. That's really simplifying it. But the intention is that the feedback is directly, you know, shown back to you. And you can, if you disagree with what we literally heard, glad to discuss. But it is again, a component of the evaluation.
All right, cool, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. As stated, my name is Claudette Baker, and I'm pleased to be here with you this evening to help moderate the discussion and to keep you time on task, to conclude the meeting on time, but ensuring that voices are heard. As shown here on the screen, I am a consultant to foundations and to nonprofits, and I've been in the field for over 40 years, having worked in the government sector for profit as well, and have facilitated several community meetings for the city of Chicago as well as others. So let us get started. Just a few rules. Next slide. Our community agreements is we ask that during the presentations that you remain muted when you're not speaking, and also please state your name when you begin to speak so that we can try to locate you on screen. Use the Q&A function for questions that are outside of the Q&A. And when you do respond verbally, please raise your hand. We ask that you respect the stack. That means that if we've got a number of folks who are lined up to speak, we will get to you. We will call out, the order as to speakers there are, and then to step up and step back. Which means if you're allow some other voices to be heard, if you find yourself speaking quite a bit. All questions and ideas are valid, so we want to hear from everyone. And in the spirit of this meeting, it's for us to remain respectful to each other. And so with that, I think where we are is to have our first presentation from Holston Development and New Moms.
So with that, we've asked each development team to submit a video to keep a kind of most efficient first presentation so we can get to kind of feedback and questions that the whole development team will be here to answer. With that, I'll jump to the video.
Hi, I'm Peter Holston with Holston Development. We are partnering with New Moms to completely renovate the Laramie Bank building at Chicago and Laramie, also producing new construction of 81 apartment units, a number of retail stores, and a complete health and wellness center by Access Community Health. We are going to create opportunities for entrepreneurs. We're going to create jobs that are going to be permanent and paying well. And we're going to be giving back to the community in sponsoring a grocer and sponsoring Ty Moores, a neighborhood artist, so that this can be a complete community project. We're really excited.
Hi, I'm Laura Zumdahl, the CEO at New Moms.
And I'm Pam Bozeman, the Chief Operating Officer at New Moms.
Almost 40 years ago, New Moms began as a community organization focused on young moms and their children. About a decade ago, we located our headquarters here in the Austin neighborhood because of community demand and need. So just down the block from where we are today, we have our headquarter facility, which has all of our services of parent education, child development, paid job training, doula supports, and 40 apartments that we for young moms and their children experiencing homelessness. Last year, we opened another facility about a mile and a half down Chicago Avenue with an additional 18 units. And we're so excited to add more units for homeless families here in the community for New Moms and other residents.
Hello, my name is Jackie Holston, and I'm Executive Director of the Holston Human Capital Development. It's a nonprofit, and we partner with Holston Management and Holston Development to be able to service the community and to service the residents that live in the buildings that they build. What we have is a three-pronged stool, basically, where we deal with the community, we deal with the residents, and we deal with resident transition, and that includes everything from being able to help you find a job, help you build a stronger family, and help all of those pieces come together to build a stronger community. We've been a nonprofit for 10 years, although we've been in business for over 20 years, and we have helped all of the families feel connected, and we will continue to do so as we move into Austin.
Hi, I'm Monica Chatta. I'm principal and founder of Civic Projects Architecture. We're a minority-owned and women-owned firm here in the city. And a lot of what we focus on is really working with community and listening. And that is so critical to this project that we really want to emphasize our work in the neighborhood. We are absolutely keen on this project. We find it very exciting because we're going to be working with community, working with neighbors, and working with local stakeholders. Our firm is founded on listening and engaging with the community, and we'll be integrating between the tenants and the stakeholders of the building and the neighborhood and kind of working those design sessions together, as well as working on the design to integrate with the local neighborhood.
Hi, my name is Pete Landon. I'm an architect with Landon Bone Baker Architects, and we've got a long history of community-based housing and other kind of program spaces throughout the city. We're really excited about being involved with this project because the nature of it and the building that we've worked with our team on putting together really addresses the street. It's pedestrian oriented, and so it's got a a retail space on the ground floor, and then adjacent to the bank, we've got a really wonderful plaza for the community that should be very good. Above that, we have 2 floors of housing that's got a terracotta skin on it that's going to relate to the street, relate to the bank building, and then set back above that, we've got 5 more floors of buildings. In the back, there's parking that's engaged that allows for access and turnaround for the clinic that's in the bank building, and altogether we feel that we've got a building that's sustainable and usable by the community.
Hi, I'm Ronaldo Mitchell with Moody Nolan Architects. As our nation's largest African-American-owned architectural practice, revitalizing Black and brown communities is in our firm's DNA. And it's for that reason that we're privileged to be collaborating with Holston Development, our architectural partners, on the restoration of this glorious architectural monument behind me. We're going to seek to revitalize it in new and exciting ways, creating space for business incubation to create wealth in our community, as well as providing access to quality health care through Access Community Health Network's new clinic.
Hello, my name is Jimmy Akitande, the president and founder of Ujamaa Construction, a 20-year MB general contractor firm in Chicago. We're very excited to be the general contractor on this project, making sure we deliver this great project with the community in mind, making sure that we work with the Alderman's office, the local assist agencies, and diversity associations, our Chicago Public School CTE program, to make sure that we have apprenticeship opportunities and workforce training opportunities to make sure that this project reflects the diversity of the community. Thank you.
I'm Ann Lundy. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Access Community Health Network. We've been serving Chicago diverse communities of color for 30 years. We are very excited to be a part of the team here. And we're also excited to be able to bring healthcare jobs and also our integrated behavioral health and medical model to the community to promote wellness and equity. Along with this too, we're able to address the social determinants. And this will bring, through collaborations with Chicago Greater Food Depository, fresh fruits and vegetables to the community.
My name is Courtney Zhu, and I lead the Venture Acceleration team at Matter. We are a global healthcare startup incubator and corporate innovation hub headquartered here in Chicago. We're thrilled to be part of this initiative, and our commitment here is twofold. One, we're committed to increasing access to equitable healthcare solutions for Austin's residents. And two, to inspire Austin's residents to pursue entrepreneurship for wealth creation and serve as the backbone for the business incubation program as a part of this initiative.
Hi, Peter Holston again. By now you have heard from a number of our team members. I just want to acknowledge those that weren't able to make it today. We have Chicago Mobile Makers, who works with young folks on construction and architecture and design. We have Go Grocer, the grocery store that we're going to underwrite and get a neighborhood family involved into the grocery business. Ty Moore's Neighborhood Artist, which we're really, really excited about. We're going to sponsor her and help her go to the next level in her pursuit, in her career. We have a number of engineers that are MBEs, so we have a really good group that's put together here. And I just want to mention also that we are all about the community in terms of, we're talking about a building here, we're talking about some land, we're talking about architecture, but the most important thing are the people of the community. And we're here to serve them. Thank you. So here you have it, live from the corner of Laramie and Chicago, where you can hear a lot of activity going on. We want to take advantage of that activity in our renovation of the Laramie Bank building and the new apartments and retail. We're really excited about the partnership between Holston and New Moms.
In my work at New Moms, I've sat at this corner every day and looked at this building and thought and dreamt about what this could become for the community in Austin. And so we're so excited about this possibility. And we hope that you heard today our commitment for working with and for the community and investing in what could be in the future.
Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Apologies for the sound or for the video lagging issues. We'll be loading everything on YouTube, but we think the sound and largely the presentation came through hopefully clearly. With that, if we can pass it to the whole development team is online now. We can pass to any kind of initial questions from panelists or the public.
So do you have questions for the Holston Development and New Moms team? There is a question. Can you talk more about the proposed program for the building?
Yes, this is Peter Holston. Can you all hear me?
We can hear you.
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. Yes, Access Community Health would go into the original bank building in the basement, first and second floor. The third floor would have the business incubator from Matter, which is going to create at least 10 entrepreneurs starting their own businesses in the medical field, the health and wellness field, which is a growth industry. We have the plaza. Ty Moores is going to coordinate a mural on the bank wall. Ty is also going to do a photo gallery in the health center and also in the apartment building on every elevator floor, depicting life in Austin historically and today. The New Moms, a number of you are familiar with, is a nonprofit organization that assists, like it says, young and new mothers with the child care, employment, anything they need. The grocery store, it's a grocery store that will become like a franchise, and we are going to pay all the startup costs and work with the community organizations to find an individual or household that would do well owning and running a grocery store. We have a dental practice that will also be going in. The practice started in the Little Village area, and they are well known in the Latinx community and other parts of the city. The housing upstairs, 81 units, combination of studios, 1s and 2s. 20 of the units will be for New Moms clients. The rest of the units will be for neighborhood residents, 100% affordable. Parking will be in a parking deck underneath the housing with the drop off up on the north part of the map that you're seeing, so that residents in various ambulatory situations can easily get into the wellness center. We also have a garden on the third floor of the housing. It'll be a community garden for the residents. All of these services are for the entire Austin community. Obviously, they will not survive on just 81 households. So these are all open to the community, and they will be marketing themselves to the community.
My apologies. I'm managing this. Let me go back. I think I skipped over one. and that is, I believe, to DPD. Can you make sure that whoever wins the RFP is composed, led by Austin residents, preferably BIPOC residents that reflect the community and its values?
So if I have just a quick minute, this is Malcolm Crawford. And so I just wanted to address the non-cultural aspect of this development. And so one of the biggest things that we've talked about in the community has been, and one of the reasons why this Soul City and this community development is to address the African-American, this is the African-American community, but I've noticed here, there has been no, I see nothing, or I've heard nothing that talked about African Americans, which is in an all Black community, a 90% African American community. So I'm concerned about this not being geared towards African American. We talked about everything except that.
Okay, I'm going to let my wife, Jackie Holston, address that. It's a very good point. And everything we're doing in here is by and for African American folks. But Jackie, I'd like you to address Malcolm's concern.
Sure. Hi, my name is Jackie Holston, and it seems like I don't know whether or not my video shows up, so it doesn't matter. What does matter is you did see me on the video presentation, and I introduced myself as over the nonprofit part of the Holston team for the Holston Human Capital. And we, as our partnerships have been to grow the communities and the services that have been offered. And with those services, it's not to come in and displace anyone. It's not to come in and impose our ideas on anyone, but to be listeners and to say, let us help you. When you look at the businesses that have been removed and the pride of the community that disappears when businesses disappear and to kill the community, and now there's an opportunity to rebuild. And yes, the African Americans that are in Austin need to be able to do that themselves. And I believe that with this RFP, it was to say, okay, Austin residents, Austin stakeholders, we're going to give you some help to be able to do what you want to do. So whereas we met with other stakeholders and said, okay, what is it that you want to see? We tried to put together a plan to be able to put those visions in place. We're not trying to say that we're doing this for non-African Americans, that we're doing this for non-Austin people. I did see some of the other questions that were on the chat, and it was, well, you did this over in Cabrini. Are you going to do the same type of housing over here? Well, it's not just about the housing, it's about the families. Every place that Holston has been, whether it's been on the north side, the west side, central, south side, it's all been finding out that these families are all connected. We all migrated from somewhere together, and we're all still together here as a Chicagoan. And to say that we want to build your community with you is really what it's all about, that it's the African Americans. I'm African American. You can't see me because I don't know how my video is not up, but it doesn't matter. I am. And I have family that grew up in Austin. I have family that grew up on the south side. I have family that's on the north side and centrally located in Chicago. And we're all related. We don't just disappear. We need to get stronger, and we need to act like we want to get stronger by locking arms and saying, let's do this. So we're here to listen, and we're here to help you create the end result of your dreams, not our dreams.
So lastly, while you're listening, I would just say that one of the things that I first said was that a cultural aspect to the development, which reflects the African-American majority community. That was what I said. And so that's what I would just like for you guys to consider, that in your presentation or moving forward, that there is a cultural aspect. I listened, I didn't hear much about the cultural aspect of what's happening. Our hope and our community, and my phone is going off here, and that's from people that can't get in. But what we are saying is that as we have Greektown, Chinatown, Boys Town, Little Italy, the list goes on and on, this corridor, we are expecting a piece of Chicago that looks like Black people. And so I don't need to respond to that. I'd just like to point that out. Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm. Appreciate it.
Well, Malcolm, before you disappear from my view, because I can see you, unfortunately, you can't see me. We do have several members of our team that are African American and that they are putting their stamp on it. When Peter talked about the murals that were going up, it was going to be the African American vision and struggle on those murals. Pete Landon's part of the Chicago Public Arts Group. They do murals all over Chicago, and they're telling the story of each one of those cultural experiences. And we're hoping that we'll be able to also tell the African American experience on those walls for everyone to participate in and to say, here's what I've experienced. Can it be on those walls? Here's what we want to have as the programs. And that's the African American experience, not us saying what it is. And that's what I meant by we want to listen and to help bring those visions to life. And I'm sorry that I wasn't clear about that. I did hear you, Malcolm.
Thank you. So just a moment. We have several questions here that we need to address. I think it's Ms. Avenal who's raising your hand. So you're in queue. Just a moment, please. There are a couple of questions related to the New Moms relationship. Will the apartments go to the people that New Moms services, and how will the project support efforts for community youth and residents outside of New Moms?
Sure. Laura and Pam, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I'm Laura Zumdahl with New Moms, and my colleague Pam Bozeman is also on. I'll start, and then Pam, feel free to jump in here too. Thanks. Yeah, as you know, New Moms headquarters is located a block and a half from the site, so we're just down the street, which we built 10 years ago with the help from the city, and to serve young moms and their children. Almost 100% of our residents at that location are African Americans, and we take that really seriously. And that's a huge part of our work, and our cultural competence around that. We have known, as you all do, for the incredible need for housing for all families and individuals in the community, the need for affordable housing, but also for young families. And so, part of our interest in this is that we want to continue to build and develop and provide opportunities for families to have housing. We serve young moms and children who are experiencing homelessness. We have 40 that live in our apartments just down the street from this. So this, as Peter mentioned, this is 80 apartments, units, but only 20 of those would be designated for young families. So there would be a portion that would be carved out and for young moms and their kids. The others are for other community members, so not specifically young moms. We would continue to provide the same kinds of supports and services that we do now for our residents for these young families in these new apartments as well, which is parent education, job training, doula services, kind of all the wraparounds, assistance with childcare and employment and all those things that our families need. We've heard this clamoring from our participants who don't live in our housing, but live in the community, who are desperate for housing and looking for that. And so it has been a resounding theme from all of the parents that we work with and those who don't have housing and need it, and asking us to build more, to do more, to develop more. And we knew that it takes a big, heavy effort for an organization like New Moms to develop and build anything, or any nonprofit organization really. And so we knew that we needed to partner with an experienced developer like Holston to be able to do that. And we are excited about the opportunity to create more housing and to help be a vehicle for driving that development. We've had experience. We've developed 2 properties now, both on Chicago Avenue. And so we are interested in this because it also fits right in the community where we're deeply invested and want to continue to do that. Many of our staff live and work in this neighborhood and are excited about this, and want this to be able to come to fruition there too. And we're excited about the possibility of extending our impact for not just the families that we serve, but also helping to be a vehicle to drive this for the community. Pam, do you have anything you want to add?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Thank you. I think the only thing that I might add is the relationship to community. We have internally a family-centered coaching model, which is basically a model that puts the families that we serve in the driver's seat. So we have both an internal and an external level. We make sure that the community is first and foremost. So there are no programs that we are engaging with that don't not only take community in mind, but bring in community voices to the development of programs and the way that we implement those programs. I would also say that we do as good a job as any at connecting in community through community partnerships and projects. So a big piece of my job is to make sure that we are constantly sharing resources, sharing information about the families that we serve, engaging people at every level. If there are services that we can't provide, we do our very best to also connect families to other partner organizations and services throughout the city of Chicago, particularly our partners on the west side, to be sure that we are collaborative in every effort. So I really do appreciate Mr. Crawford's question around having African-American voices at the helm of projects like these. I think that's a really critical concept. And I think if we aren't engaged in that in an active way, then we would fail at our current work at New Moms and Beyond.
Okay. There's a couple of questions about affordability, and then Ms. Arbana, you are next after that. So what does affordable mean? What's the cost range?
Andrea, would you like to address that, please?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. I will, as Peter mentioned, we have a variety of unit types here: studios, 1 bedrooms, and 2 bedrooms. So the studios, we have 50% and 60% of AMI. Right now, we have modeled those at $756 per month for the 50% of AMI units, and $945 for the 60% of AMI units. The 1 bedroom units, we have 50% and 60% as well, and those go up slightly to about $810 and $972 respectively. And then for the 2 bedrooms, we also have 50% and 60% of AMI units, and those go to $972 and $1167 per unit on a monthly basis. I don't have the exact figures for the maximum incomes for the 50 and 60%, but I want to say that 50% for a family of 4 is in the area of $42,000. And we could provide those at a later date.
Okay. Ms. Avenal?
Good evening, everyone. Thank y'all for the presentation. I did have 2 questions. The first is, I saw that the grocer would be a Go Grocer. I've seen them in Lincoln Park. I have seen them in Wicker Park. I have seen them in Lakeview. What has kept Go Grocer from being in the Austin community before now? Like, why is this the first time I'm hearing that they want to come into Austin? And then secondly, how much of this development is tax generating? Because one of the biggest problems on Chicago Avenue is that with all of the vacancies and all of the tax exempt organizations already operating on Chicago Avenue, there is no tax base. I mean, you can talk to people in the SSA and they'll tell you the tax base is like shot. So what does this do for the tax base?
Good questions. Let me address the taxes, and then I'm going to have Shane Charles talk about Go Grocer. The taxes, I just looked in our pro forma, we're expecting to pay $70,000 a year in property taxes. The housing itself will be taxed, the retail will be taxed, and I don't believe Access Community Health is tax exempt either. But we did consult with our tax attorney, and he estimated $70,000 a year on that. As far as Go Grocer, we actually learned about them through a retail broker. And Shane, you want to tell us a little bit about what we're doing with them?
Yes. Hi, everyone. And thank you so much for sitting in and listening and also providing feedback. something that was super important, Liz, and we were able to connect with you in regards to this, but something that was super important was this idea of wealth building in our communities. And I think we searched far and wide for every Black-owned grocery store in the Chicagoland West Side, South Side area. And when we came across Go Grocer, that was an opportunity for us to be able to look at how do we establish wealth through this idea of the grocery store. And so with that being more of a franchise-like model, this gives us the opportunity to move into the Austin community and make an imprint with a local from the neighborhood.
So Liz, we're gonna underwrite all the startup costs. Shane, do you remember what they are? There's an initial investment and initial inventory. What does that amount to, roughly? Do you remember?
It was roughly $500,000.
So we want to get this thing up and running, and then have the community designate someone that we could turn over to. Similarly, I'm sorry, go ahead.
To clarify, Peter and Shane, it's less than $500,000 for the initial startup costs. I think we had modeled about $200,000 all in, and that doesn't include the build out, but it's less than that, and we have it included in our figures.
Okay.
So we have time for one last question. There are many other questions that are in the Q&A that will be compiled, and we'll have a response to the roundtable, but this one came in earlier as I try to take them in order. Can you say more about how you plan to build intergenerational community wealth and address the historic disinvestment from the neighborhoods like Austin?
Sure. The investment is what we're going to be doing. In other words, the physical investment, you've seen the rendering and the first floor plan, and then we're going to create over 80 jobs, over 10 entrepreneurships, put a grocer in business. We're going to underwrite Ty Moore's as she responds to the Soul City interest in Black culture throughout the property. And this putting back together an iconic landmark of the community is all going to be part of our project. So we are long-term involved. And the most important thing I want to say, and I'm going to read it very briefly, but we are only halfway there. The second half of this process is putting the community's imprint on our proposed project. We will sit down with the Austin community in whatever fashion is safe and have you tweak our plan. We insist on your input so we can submit a final version for funding that has the community stamp of approval while still being financially feasible. Our process is transparent. So I want to reiterate that we are only halfway there.
Thank you for the Holston Development and New Moms proposal. Just summarily, some of the comments that are made or the concerns that are expressed here is around the cultural aspect and the involvement of Austin stakeholders, and about the grocery store as to whether or not it's African-American owned. Also, some others in the chat, it's how was the QLP, the Quality Life Plan, addressed within that proposal. So thank you, Holston Development and New Moms. And the next development presentation will be 548 Development. The video.
Yep, bring it up now.
Good evening. I'm AJ Patton. In 1999, my mother received a $400 gas bill. She was making $10 an hour, and subsequently our gas got shut off and we had to boil water to take a bath. 15 years later, I founded a development company to serve the needs of energy efficient, affordable housing right here in Chicago. That company, 548 Development, named after the unit and the projects in which I grew up, is here today leading a coalition with a vision for inclusive health and sustainable wealth for the Austin community. The 548 Development Coalition is a group of 100% minority and women-owned businesses. We are united under the common vision of turning Austin into a community of the future. Together, we have a team rich with experience that understands the nuances of the Austin site, including working with historical redevelopment and landmarks. Our minority-owned partners are committed to continuing the thread of diversity throughout our practice by prioritizing MBEs and WBE subcontractors to fill roles. As Chicago's largest African-American owned engineering firm, Millhouse has worked on many successful projects, including the Mariano Supermarket, terminal expansion at O'Hare, the Walmart in Chatham, and they've consistently exceeded their MBE goals by over 80%. LSC Architects is the third largest Black-owned architecture and design firm in the country. They've worked on many projects around the country, including historical redevelopment of the Sumner Library, which is on the National Register of Historic Places, and designed the Satori Village development in North Minneapolis, which is in a community that historically had been lacking in investment and development. In the spirit of mentorship and learning, we've paired these storied firms with emerging firms, Engaged Civil Engineering and TNS Studios, who may otherwise not get to participate in projects of this scale. Gold Leaf Capital Partners is an African-American owned boutique capital markets advisory firm that specializes in financing deals of this size. 548 Development is pioneering the use of energy efficiency in sustainable housing and bringing cost savings to low-income communities. Our community partners include established Chicago-based organizations alongside nonprofits that ensure collaboration, job creation, and economic development. Each facet of this project is inclusive of all residents, ages, income, and run by Chicago natives. That it's health-focused, impacting residents personally, professionally, and financially. It's sustainable, not just in being green, but in being economical and lasting over time. And that it's wealth building as a community and generationally, as well as personally and culturally. We have 7 signed letters of intent from established Chicago community organizations, including tenants who are committed to hiring locally. The heart of our development is the Soul City Steam Center, which will live within the restored Laramie Bank. This tech-enabled space hosts a collective of nonprofit community partners who will provide education, workforce training, and access to the arts. The Chicago Human Rhythm Project offers diverse, high-quality dance classes along with education programs, rehearsal space, and administrative offices to other nonprofits. They also serve as an accelerator to help art programs learn how to monetize. K Quattro is a radio and production studio that is Latinx owned that provides facilities and studio equipment for multimedia production. Westtown Bikes and Repair Shop will empower youth of all abilities with a focus on bike mechanics, job training, and employment. PhotoStart uses digital photography and video to connect underprivileged children with modern opportunity, improving digital literacy and developing talents of self-expression and visual storytelling. Black Women Talk Tech offers mentorship and support for Black female entrepreneurs, bringing education to the community for businesses to grow and thrive. One of the biggest requests we heard from residents are venues where they can actually sit down and interact with each other. So we're excited to empower locally Black-owned restaurants in Austin. Well-known Chicago chef Quentin Love brings a combined health-conscious restaurant and group fitness studio, starting with the Turkey Chop Gourmet Grill, offering healthier fast food options, and an operating community kitchen that has already given away 270,000 meals, alongside Bike Kettle Studio, which features spin classes paired with kettlebell exercises in a community setting. Nisaya and Sadiqa Emmanuel of Majani Soulful Vegan have committed to building and nourishing the community with delicious, healthy food options, cooking demonstrations, and farm-to-table cuisine. They'll also be supporting the operation of a community garden. Austin is in need of quality housing that's not just affordable, but sustainable and energy efficient. The 548 Development Coalition plans to create one of the largest solar housing development projects in the Midwest. We plan to bring a diversity of layouts with energy efficient building materials that will lower utility costs for tenants by over a third. Millennium Solar, the largest minority-run solar program in Illinois, will skill a cohort of local residents through work on this development and ultimately be placed in full-time construction careers. High-speed internet access is a critical factor in bridging the digital divide. We are in elevated talks with potential telecom partners that are committed to powering this development and community. Another important aspect to capitalize on the community's health, happiness, and well-being is sustainable community green space. Our development features an open-air plaza filled with native landscaping and public art, a community garden to grow food and composite waste, and we're partnering with local Black-owned Green Era to take any remaining waste so it can be processed into low-carbon liquid fuel. The final piece of our proposal is a community-operated cannabis dispensary. The city of Chicago has designated Austin as one of the areas disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs, and the Austin community has expressed desire to participate in this new lucrative trade that will generate new streams of tax revenue for the area. Viola Brands is a proven community-oriented company with a reputation for creating jobs and nurturing culture in surrounding communities through accelerator programs and agripreneur education. They've also committed to hiring 20 to 25 Austin locals to run this project. This innovative program improves quality of life, preserves local culture, and considers environmental benefit with mutually beneficial incentive structures. 2, benefit local businesses by generating more foot traffic, enhancing skills of residents through access to education and resources, and create job and revenue streams that infuse money into the local economy. Ultimately, this project preserves and engages the cultural assets while creating new space for new creativity and health to flourish. I and the entire 548 Development Coalition would like to thank you for your consideration for our vision for inclusive health and sustainable wealth for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. I see a hand raised. That was the first that I've seen. Margaret, and I don't see your last name.
Hi, Margaret Garner. It was actually on the Holston project.
Margaret, we need to table the Holston project.
No, I'm fine. I was just letting you know that I'm fine. You keep it moving, Miss Baker.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see.
I see a first question starting at 7:01. Do you have LOI signed with any of the partners that you mentioned? Can be for AJ.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how we're doing with audio and visual here, Ethan.
Yeah, hear you. Sorry, video issues, but I hear you and see you.
Okay, perfect. Yes, all of those are signed LOIs with commitments for local hiring as well. So absolutely, every group we named, we have packaged a signed letter of intent.
Okay. There's a question here. How will you help with safety for the community?
Safety, absolutely. So a part of the partnership with Viola Brands is we will do essentially that's an entire city block. So we'll do a part of their agreement is that we'll provide 24/7 security for that entire site.
What's the economic development cost for 548?
Economic development costs.
Mhm.
Can you have them restate that question for me?
So, Liliot Jackson,
I'm sorry, I just want
can
to
you
make
open,
sure.
I'm asking the person to open up, to unmute themselves.
It'll take them a second, and we can clarify that.
Okay, so we'll keep moving. 548, are any of you connected? Are you connected to stakeholders in Austin?
Absolutely. So I didn't show my entire team on the development side. So we have a mixed team from people from both the south and west sides. And so that was important as well, as which is why we highlighted and brought a west side restaurant that will be one of our anchor tenants on underneath the housing development. So absolutely. And as well as this will not be our first west side project. Well, by the time this breaks ground, this will be number 3 or 4.
Daryl Washington, I see your hand. I'll come to you shortly. I want to acknowledge your hand is raised. How many housing units will there be? How many family owned? And who will have access to rent? And will it be affordable?
Absolutely. So we'll have a matrix that we've set up between 50 and 80% AMI, and it's approximately 50 units that we're doing. And those will all be rentals, and we'll be targeting right there in the community.
Mr. Washington, Daryl Washington, I think you were up before these. We can't.
No audio, brother.
No audio. So we'll come back to you, Mr. Washington. Have these projects taken into consideration Austin-based organizations that are working with STEAM programming?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
were any of those organizations actually engaged?
We reached out to a wide net of people in a very short amount of time. There's still room for us to, engage more people. We're probably 85% where we're going to be, but we're still open to working with more folks. So, the doors are not closed by any stretch of the imagination. We reached out to a ton of folks, but also we had to put this together in relatively short order. And our intention is to go back to the market and re-engage not just the nonprofit space, but just as importantly, the for-profit space to see what other businesses would like to partner with us in this venture.
Mr. Washington, do you have audio?
Ms. Baker, I just want to make sure I address them and say we're not done. We're still open. Feel free to reach out. Sorry, Ms. Baker.
Mr. Washington, are you ready?
I am. Sorry about that earlier. Hey, AJ, 2 questions. I guess it's 1 question, 2 parts. How do you see your development fitting in alongside with the overall proposal for Soul City? And then the overarching Austin Forward Together plan. How do you see what you propose? How do you see that fitting together into that?
Perfect. I'm going to parse that a couple of different ways. I think the number one thing is jobs. And I think regardless of anything else that we're trying to focus on is who gets those jobs, who gets that equity. And so that's why we partner with Viola Brands. And that's why we wanted to bring Quentin and Chef T over so that they got opportunities to expand their visions of Black restaurants, getting opportunities in other parts of the city. So the number one portion was jobs and equity. Secondarily, the other portion that I care about is quality housing, not just for the sake of it or particular focus, more than anything, it being energy efficient and renewable. And I think that partners with any project or any part of the neighborhood, any neighborhood, arguably. And that, to me, seems like there's a lot of parallel energies on that front. But my number one thing was who's getting those jobs and who's getting the equity, and being ultra transparent about who those anchor folks are and who's going to be the leaders of those discussions. And so I think those are the paralleling interests and why, it should be pretty welcoming to the Austin neighborhood. And that's a good question. I think that's important for us to talk about, is like, who the heck's really leading these projects.
Do you currently have a cannabis license?
That will be announced. Obviously, we're waiting on the next round of announcements. So absolutely. They've got several applications in, and they're in a favorable position. It's probably the most I can say publicly.
Okay. I think it's the same question about the finances. Who are the stakeholders that you've worked with in Austin?
Who are the stakeholders that we've worked with in Austin? So historically, we've reached out to a little bit of everyone, but for now, we've been we've got a project on Roosevelt and let's say St. Louis. We're announcing another project soon in North Lawndale, which will be probably coming up in the next couple of weeks. I'm under an NDA on the biggest project, so I don't want to mess any of that up. But we've got our last project, we had 14 different Black businesses that got contracts. A host of people from the West Side were involved in that, and a host of people from the South Side. So we're pretty much diverse. I don't want to name drop for the sake of name dropping, but we've been pretty inclusive of all sides of the neighborhood.
Do you have plans to have mental health needs for the community at large, or to address employee assistance program?
Currently, no. So I don't know who asked that question, Ms. Baker, but I'd love to know who that was. If they have some good ideas, we'd be open to that engagement.
So, Mr. Dew, would you like to say more? Okay.
That would require promoting him.
I didn't hear you, Ethan.
It would require promoting them. They should be able to speak now.
All right, checking audio, testing.
Yep, we hear you.
Hi, this is Donald Dew. I'm President and CEO of Habilitative Systems, Inc. We've been serving the West Side communities now for 42 years, and I was interested, of course, in providing additional mental health services out of that site on a commercial basis, employee assistance programming for the employees who would be working at that location. Of course, in the surrounding communities, there's tremendous exposure to violence and trauma, and many of the persons who will be employed there still have to go home to domestic violence issues and other concerns within the city. So of course, we'd like to be able to provide that on-site resource as well.
Reach out, Mr. Dew, 548capital.com, or my contact information probably floated around. I'm probably the easiest person to get a hold of in the world. So feel free to reach out, Mr. Dew. I'd love to learn more about how we can partner.
Okay, look forward to it. Thank you.
Will there be banking on site?
Yeah, that's one of the things that we got pretty far down the road on, and we couldn't get an LOI in time. That's something that we are in heavy talks with. And that's the other thing here. We had other folks that are heavily involved in this project that would like to participate and support it, but they want to see that, you got to win first, and then you can go and make sure that it's worth other people's time. And so the folks that committed now have faith and confidence that, in our group and our team, and other folks want to see, us secure the location first, and then we'll be able to do that. But banking, telecom, grocery, those were all major groups who are interested in our vision for it with being solar powered, et cetera. But they wanted to make sure that we secured the location first. So absolutely, banking's on that list.
Okay. Mr. Patton, there are a few comments with regard to the question about Austin stakeholders. And there are a few comments related to that the people that you've mentioned, the stakeholders are not Austin. And so they're specifically looking for who you worked with in Austin, not the West Side.
Okay, so sure. Let me see. We reached out to, let's see here, 2 local grocery shops here. We reached out to the aldermen. We've got relationships across the gambit. So I don't want to name drop for name drop's sake. So, but we tied our plans, essentially to the overall theme that's already there. So, and we've already included pretty much a little bit of everyone. So I don't want to name drop to be wasteful on that front. But yeah, we've talked to pretty much everyone that was willing to talk to us first. And I think that that's going to be a piece of this.
Okay. There's a question, who is the community lead?
Who is the community lead? I would need to know more about what how that's being defined. Obviously I'm the lead on the project.
Okay. What's the scale of the community garden? Are you talking about a few plots or something like a farm that's on Ogden in Lawndale?
I'm not thinking about how big that one is. We're still working through what that size is going to be.
Okay. And as a note, is that Austin already has a community garden? Okay, are there other questions? I don't see any hands raised. Or
I have one.
Sure.
Ed Coleman, West Side Forward. The solar initiative that you just briefly touched on, is that a long-term enterprise or a training program or both? And what do you foresee the economic impact of that to be?
Perfect. Thank you. Great question. So we think that this is one of, obviously the around the country, this is one of the largest growing job creators in the country. We want to make sure that our people and our culture is being included in this economic driver. And so all of our other projects around the city, including our project on the west side, has solar included to it and has a workforce training component to it. So this is technically my bread and butter, right? And so we think that jobs should be the runner, the anchor. And so we're tying this workforce training program to this particular site like we've done with other projects, and then making sure that there's a job program and a job fair so these people are being placed in long-term full-time positions post the construction of this project. So that's a great question, Mr. Coleman.
Okay.
I have a question. Can
Sure.
I go ahead?
John?
Yes.
Okay. So it's similar to Malcolm's earlier today.
Can you identify yourself for us, please?
Of course, yeah. Thank you, everybody, for having me. I'm John Veal, co-founder of Alt Space Chicago, nonprofit based in Austin. And I have a question for you, AJ. When it comes to the aesthetics of this development that you're proposing, how do you make sure that it holds the cultural history of Austin?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we were in conversations about is who's doing the mural from the visual. I want to make sure that you're talking about the exterior, the visions of it. So thank you.
Yes, and material choices as well. So we want to make sure that any development doesn't end up looking like a prison.
Perfect. Thank you. Great question, brother. Thank you. One of our biggest issues from a design perspective is that's why we stopped at a certain height of that build of the housing versus the bank. What we didn't want to do is build a tower that did not vibe with the entire city or that entire portion of the neighborhood. And so to me, that didn't make visual sense. That's why we stopped at 50 units instead of going more. So that's one, that's a great portion. Two, we kept that space significant between, and I don't want to nerd out for a minute, but I want to answer your question in real time. One, we made the parking underground so that there was more space coming through the middle of those two locations. Secondarily, so that we could showcase a local artist on the, which would be the west side of the bank, and so that they could get some of that mural space there. Lastly, the building materials and the rooftop solar. Thank you. I don't know who just switched that there for me, but you're kind of showcasing what I'm trying to say there.
You just keep going. You got it.
Thank you, brother. Shout out to you, Ethan. That's exactly what we're trying to do here. So that's why we didn't want to go too high. That's why we wanted to be really intentional with the colors. We've got a couple of different visions in terms of the build out so that there may be, if we don't get the anchor grocery tenant, we'll take some of that commercial space, first floor commercial space out, do more green space and expand upon the community garden. So that's a great question. The building materials matter. Last thing we need is another tower. What we need is something that actually has some flavor to it and actually fits with the neighborhood. Thank you. That's a great question.
Thank you.
Okay, we have time for a quick question here before it's time to move on. Elliot Jackson.
Elliot Jackson.
Elliot.
I'm an Austin. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm an Austin resident. And listening to 548 and a developmental plan, I had posed a question where was the capital coming from that was going to actually get this project going. And just listening to a lot of the other comments that were posed, where within Austin, me being off Laramie and Chicago Avenue, where this is being proposed, where has the residents from that community been offered a chance to actually express themselves outside of this tonight? Like we didn't even know nothing about this. You know, I understand that COVID is going on and a lot of stuff, you know, we dealing with a different understanding and how things are being done. But it's so many people within Austin, you know, one of the most violent communities in Chicago that need real help. We don't need no mirror. We don't need nobody to point to paint on the side of no building. We need some real help. So listen to that brother playing. I heard one person ask about security. Man, it's a lot of shooting going on right there on Laramie and Chicago Avenue. It's a lot of hurt and pain right there on Laramie and Chicago Avenue. And I listen to new moms, and I know they don't really care about Laramie and Chicago Avenue, but listening to 548, they have a great plan.
Mr. Jackson, we need you to get to your question, please, sir. We have limited time.
Yes, ma'am, I apologize. How can the community from Austin get involved with 548?
Perfect. That's a great question. So we've got a couple of different ideas. I think one is the intentionality. You asked a couple of different questions that I would love to address. One, I could probably spend 20 minutes on where this money's coming from.
Mr. Patton, I need you to keep your comments to time limited also.
All right.
And thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I will get to. We've got reach out to me directly about where the money's coming from, because I think that's a worthy discussion. Secondarily, the jobs, we were intentional about who we empowered at different levels. So, you know, one of the issues that I've seen in these major projects is I could tell you who the finalists were going to be before this even started. But what I cared more was who's the second level of Black entrepreneurs that are going to get opportunities here. And so we already shared who we were going to empower through this project. Secondarily, we tied a for sure 100% successful job training program to this, right? And we targeted and we said to them and empowered them to say, when we come to this neighborhood, to this block, make sure you reach out to people within a 10-block radius and give them priority over who's going to get access to that particular cohort, right? And so to me, we're not going to be able to fix, you know, this is all the societal issues, but what we can do is create a job. What we can do is empower some people in that neighborhood to participate in the ascension of their own neighborhood. That's the most important piece that we feel like we have influence over. But I think you raised some good points, brother.
Okay. And we have one last question. Ms. Oliver, you get the last question.
Hello, my name is Aisha Oliver, and I am a resident and stakeholder here in Austin. That was me asking all of the questions in the chat about community stakeholders and who are you working with specifically for Austin. The reason I asked that, and I'm going to continue to ask that with everyone that's presenting here tonight, is because what we usually see as residents of Austin is that the engagement isn't there. And that's what I'm hearing. We would like to be, and it's not that we're asking, we need to be at the table when things like this happen, because we're the ones who are here. And ultimately, our voices need to be heard before and not after something is done. So I'm asking specifically, other than our elected officials, who, as a resident and a stakeholder here in Austin, have you worked with, or what are your plans for community engagement prior to this RFP being completed on either end?
Absolutely. And thank you for asking. And I just put my email in the chat. What I care about the most is availability and transparency, right? And so for us, what we cared about was anytime we go to the neighborhood, we raise the flag and beat the drum, right? I can't be from every side of the city, but what I can be is when I show up to the neighborhood to do a project and invest money there, intentionally inclusive, figure out who's hiring and who can I empower, and give them an opportunity to express and share some more of that influence, right? So I would say we're open to engaging with everybody, and our mission is to create jobs and equity. And we've done that intentionally with Black businesses. I said that our last project was a multi-million-dollar project, and I gave 14 Black businesses contracts, Aisha. That was by design. I will do that. I will do that every single project in Chicago for the foreseeable future. And so if you know people that need jobs, if you know Black businesses that I can empower and support and give a platform to, I just gave you my email address. I want to do that 25 more times. And that's why I'm here. We've reached out to a boatload of nonprofits, and we had varying success of them being interested of working with us or whatever. But a lot of piece of this is we wanted to empower the for-profits. A lot of this Invest Southwest project is they're willing to fill in some of that non-serviceable gap so we can take some Black businesses and give them potentially cheap rent or an opportunity to have a facility and expand their operations. That's why Quentin Love and I partnered on this project. You see Quentin Love from the Turkey Chop coming right here, right? And he's the man. So we're going to do a restaurant with him as well as a spin studio. We're going to stay consistent on that. Aisha, thank you, Ms. Baker.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thanks everyone for your conversation with 548 Development. A few takeaways, as with the other developer, is around Austin stakeholder involvement, the housing units that you are planning, and whether or not there will be mental health and the STEAM programming. Next, we will have the video presentation from Evergreen Development and Imagine Group.
Hello, I'm Tori Barrett, Principal and Founder of the Imagine Group. On behalf of the Evergreen Imagine Joint Venture, we're excited to present our development plan for the rebirth of the Laramie State Bank in Austin. The Imagine Group is a boutique real estate firm with significant experience delivering innovative, affordable housing, mixed income, and market rate developments. Most recently, we completed the Clio Art Residences, a 58-unit mixed-use development in Washington Park. We have partnered with Evergreen Real Estate Group, a developer of award-winning housing and mixed-use urban projects with a focus on affordable housing. Evergreen is known for its completion of 2 public libraries with mixed-income housing that incorporated design excellence, as well as several historic renovations. Our design team consists of John Ronan Architects and Nia Architects. John Ronan Architects is an internationally recognized Chicago-based design firm known for its commitment to innovation and rigorous attention and details for its non-for-profit clients. John Ronan's projects include the Independence Library, completed with Evergreen, and the Gary Coma Youth Center in the Grand Crossing, which received AIA national honors. Nia Architects were founded by Anthony Akindelli, an African-American immigrant, and the firm is recognized for its commitment to community revitalization and extensive stakeholder integration. Nia's projects include the historic renovation of the Marshall Fields Gardens Apartments and the Arts and Rec Center at Ellis Park. For construction, we have included GMA Construction Group, an MBE and veteran-owned firm led by Cornelius Griggs, with a mission to develop people that will transform communities. GMA has an extensive track record of delivering projects on the South and West Side, providing construction jobs for members of the community and exceeding participation for MWBE firms. We have also included McRosty Historic Advisors as our historic preservation consultant, and Conrail Canterbury, a WBE environmental consultant. We recognize that this revitalization effort will only be successful with extensive participation by members of the Austin community. Our approach centers on a rebirth of the Laramie State Bank, bringing a bank branch back to this side. We have reached out to BMO Harris, CIBC Bank, and the Self-Help Credit Union that purchased Seaway Bank, once Chicago's largest Black-owned bank. Our team includes AO Foods, founded by my partner, Fred Spencer. AO is a rapidly growing health food company with an emphasis on West African cuisine. The brand has been rapidly adopted by major grocery chains, and the food is produced right here in Chicago. And Clio, which I founded and named after the death of my baby sister. a 15-year-old organization with the Community Family Life Center on Garfield Boulevard. CLEO will be offering its Young Professional Academy, a group dedicated to growing future entrepreneurs. The Evergreen Imagine team will continue to connect with additional local organizations in order to build wealth in the community and maximize the impacts of this project.
Good evening, I'm John Ronan, founding principal of John Ronan Architects in Chicago. We're working with Anthony Akindele and Nia Architects on this project. Our design for the site is driven by respect for the Art Deco bank structure and a desire for the new addition to enter into a meaningful dialogue with it. We're proposing a massing that respects the integrity of the existing bank structure and creates a unique landscape courtyard space for the community. And our approach to building materials is intended to establish an integrated whole between new and old on the site. Critical to the design success is the dialogue created between the existing architecturally significant bank structure and the new building elements added to the site. For the new building addition, we're proposing a terracotta cladding material informed by the existing terracotta facade of the Art Deco bank structure, which we reference in color, tone, and texture. Our goal is to combine the new and the old into one integrated building complex that becomes an authentic landmark for the community, and not merely another nondescript apartment building that could be located anywhere in the city. This is a view of the landscape courtyard space created by the L-shaped massing of our proposed building, which could host outdoor cafe or restaurant seating. Above the ground floor retail space, there are 4 levels of apartments clad in terracotta, with textured terracotta window surrounds referencing the ornate terracotta facade of the adjacent bank. Our design methodology includes a robust community engagement process to incorporate input from community groups and a wide variety of stakeholders. We'll have public meetings to explain how your input is being incorporated into the design, and we're designing with you, not for you. We see our role as a civic commitment and believe that every neighborhood deserves great design. John Ronan Architects and Nia Architects have done award-winning projects across the west, south, and north side neighborhoods of Chicago. And we feel honored to apply our design ability and technical expertise to this important project.
So we assembled the financing for this based on our experience on a number of other City of Chicago projects, including the Northtown and Independence Library housing projects. We assumed that we'd be using City of Chicago 9% low-income housing tax credits, which is a competitive process. We also assumed the use of historic tax credits on the Laramie State Bank building, which requires that we keep the building and restore it to the Secretary of Interior standards. One of the reasons that we're looking as a financial institution for a use for that space. We did assume the use of some TIF financing to help fill the gap in the project, and a fairly significant project first mortgage that would be supported on both the residential and commercial components of the project.
Greetings. My name is Cornelius Griggs. I'm the president and CEO of GMA Construction Group. We are a minority-owned and veteran-owned business located right here in the city of Chicago. GMA's mission is to develop people that will transform communities. We do this by leveraging the construction industry to provide opportunities for underserved communities on projects on the south and west sides of Chicago. On each project we undertake, GMA hires folks directly from the community to start out as laborers and carpenters making prevailing wages. We currently employ about 10 to 15 hires throughout our projects across this city. They participate in certified training programs with the Associated Builders and Contractors out in Elk Grove Village. We maximize our participation on projects across the city, and we plan to do the same on this particular pursuit. I grew up in the Austin community, spending 10 to 15 years of my life traveling between Cicero and Central along Chicago Avenue, so I truly understand this site. Today, I remain entrenched in the local community. I created the CREATE program at Austin Career Academy, and I'm also the board chair at Introspect Youth Services, located right there on Cicero and Lake Street. We are truly excited about this opportunity to transform this community and be a part of a great project that will have a lasting impact on everyone in that Austin community. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. This question is, are there questions for Evergreen and Imagine? There is a question regarding for DPD about, can you give a quick review about the listening sessions and the RFP process that you ask all of the respondents to work from?
Yeah, apologies, I ran through that very briefly, but the visioning for the RFP kicked off in the summer through the Invest Southwest neighborhood roundtables, and that was informed by the Austin Quality of Life Plan and the Soul City Corridor Plan to shape the RFP and to shape kind of the responses to those. That's a very, very brief version, but there's more material on the chicago.gov/Invest Southwest on our DPD YouTube channel for previous presentations and information. Certainly noting that the process was kind of interrupted or blown up by having to become all virtual because it started around the same time that COVID started.
Mr. Jackson, Elliott, am I pronouncing it right?
Yes, ma'am, you pronounced it correct. This is for the Evergreen. I see that you guys have got an Austin resident already assigned to Mr. Briggs. Knowing that we dealing with a food desert, knowing that social science has declared the Austin community as one of the broken windows theories, how are we going to change, looking at the design of you guys' property, how are we going to change that theory, the broken windows theory, where the community really is an eyesore? If you ride down Chicago Avenue, man, and you get into those inner blocks.
Mr. Jackson, I'm going to ask, your question is how are they going to change the community in that regard?
Yes, ma'am. The impression of that community, that's already destroyed.
Okay. Evergreen and Imagine representatives.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for the question. Really appreciate the opportunity to present to you today. And I'm also going to invite the rest of the team to chime in at any time. As you stated, we do have Austin resident that's part of the team. But again, this is the first step in many community meetings that we plan to have. We want to make sure that you all are engaged in every aspect of this development process. We want to hear from you to help shape what that community is going to look like. We responded to the RFP in a limited time that we had, but again, this is the first step in many phases of this particular development. But again, I'll open it up to anyone else from the Imagine Evergreen team that wants to chime in.
I'll just chime in briefly. Hi, I'm David Block from Evergreen. And I would say to answer the question about broken windows, which is a really important and interesting question, our view of the way to start thinking about this site starts with respect for the historic building. It's an amazing building, and using that building, bringing it back to life, is the first step in essentially putting new glass in a broken window. And then the next step is marrying it with a handsome building, a contemporary building that's in dialogue with the historic building. And so between our architects, John Ronan and Anthony Akindelli at NIA, we think we have a lot of really strong architectural talent that can create that dialogue between the old and the new and start to create that respect for the historic fabric of the community.
What is the, can you outline again the unit count and the breakdown? How many affordable versus the market rate?
Hey, David, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'll just very quickly take that one. We proposed a mixed income development here. So it's about 20% market rate and 80% affordable at a range of income levels, ranging from 50% of area median. So those are folks who are making anywhere from $30,000 up to about $45,000, up to 80% of area median. But we also have, we're hoping to work with the Chicago Housing Authority to allow people who are below that income threshold to be part of this development. It's a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, a total of 57 units here.
There is a question about what else is going into the retail space, and who are you looking to bring into the community for your programming?
Yeah, and I'm not sure if my business partner, Fred Spencer, is on the line or not, but as stated in the video, IO Foods is one of the retailers that we're planning on bringing in. Fred, are you on as well?
Can you guys see me? I'm here.
Yeah.
You can hear me? Okay. Hey, everyone. Yeah, so IO is my wife's company. It's a West African food company. And so we just were backed by the former CEO of McDonald's, Don Thompson. And so the plan, if we were to win this RFP, is to bring IO to here as an anchor tenant. So our business is to grow in the Austin community over the next couple of years if we were to win the RFP. So we are currently in 50 Whole Foods stores and plan to bring a retail presence here on the ground level.
And we also plan on bringing some other community partners that we've worked with in the past, Reginald and Marianne Marsh. They're the owners of Persona and M Lounge in the South Loop. And both of them have committed to bringing their business establishment to this community as well.
And Tori, if I could just add one more thing, I'll give props to our colleagues at 548 Development. I thought he had a really good answer in his outreach to bringing in a bank branch. That was our sort of primary focus in looking for the restoration of the Laramie State Bank, was actually to put a significant financial institution branch into that building. Because we are relying on historic tax credits, and so we'll have to restore the historic banking lobby. We thought that putting a bank branch in there, or a credit union, or a CDFI, a community development financial institution, would be the best strategy there. And from a wealth building approach, I think some of our view, at least, is that one of the best ways to help build community wealth in Austin is to make sure that there is a community financial institution where people in Austin can have their paychecks deposited, can seek business loans or first mortgage loans on their houses or 2 flats and things like that. And that is the anchor of community wealth. If you look in the proposal, Evergreen's done a project with a CDFI in Milwaukee where we partnered with this financial institution, and part of their mission was providing small business lending and community financial support in a disinvested community in Milwaukee. And so we have those kinds of relationships, but as our colleague at 548 noted, sometimes you have to win this competition in order to have the banks get serious about starting conversations with you.
Okay. You mentioned 20%. Oh, let me acknowledge, Mr. Washington, I see your hand. I will come to you shortly. Which market? You mentioned 20% market rate, and the question is which market?
That's a good question. I think, we will need to do more detailed market analysis to understand what the market rate rents are. Our assumption is that, right now we're showing the rents to be in the range of about $1,000 a month up to about $1,100 a month. Up to about $1,400 a month. But again, that's something we need to validate as we get into the project.
Who are the Austin stakeholders that you engaged?
Yeah, Cornelius, are you on the line? If not, I'll take that.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Definitely. So my name is Cornelius Griggs. I'm the president and CEO of GMA Construction Group. Grew up in the Austin community, spent roughly 21 years of my life there. So I'm still engaged in the community. My family still lives in the community. I grew up on the 4800 block of Walton and the 4900 block of Superior, traveled up and down Chicago Avenue. Remember when this bank building used to be a flea market, and across the street was a KFC. There was a McDonald's on the corner. There's a flea market on Central and Chicago Avenue. So I grew up in the neighborhood. I know everybody there. I'm still connected in the neighborhood. We're currently partnered with Black Men United, Pastor John Harrell, who's a part of my street team and ground-based team that helps us with community relations, and he'll be engaged in the project as well with us. And we've had conversations with United Bank as a potential partner on this development. So we are entrenched in the community from a team perspective and from a construction perspective. We do a lot of work in the surrounding community. We're currently working in Emma Mitch Ward on the Police and Fire Academy. I have a $17 million facility going up on the corner of Roosevelt and California, which is in the Lawndale community. So I know the West Side like the back of my hand. This is where I come from. This is my home. All my family went to Orr High School in Austin, and so I definitely enjoy this community and want to see it thrive.
How many new jobs are expected, and in what industry?
David,
well, I guess I could give it a shot on the construction side of things. I think if you look at our development at the corner of Roosevelt and California, it's a $17 million development that has created roughly 12 full-time construction opportunities for folks in that community. So these are young men who have went from making some of them $0 an hour to making nearly $70 an hour as laborers working on our construction projects. On a job this size, we're probably looking at anywhere between 15 to 16 community hires working on construction trades, and that's across the board. And the idea is to keep folks employed full time, moving them into some of our training programs with the Associated Builders and Contractors. But then we're talking about after construction. And I think Tori can speak to some of the opportunities that will be available to folks after construction.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also interesting to note too that through temporary jobs. So the nonprofit that I mentioned in the opening video, Clio, we employ about 300 youth a year in the Washington Park community. And we've gotten approval to also extend that to the Austin community. And so between the times and the summer jobs program between May and August, during the summer is when we see a heighten in violence because a lot of these youth don't have meaningful work experience. And so we'll be expanding our summer jobs program to the Austin community to be able to employ at least 100 youth during that high crime time in the summer. In addition to that, we also have a program in the schools that we run called the Violence Free Zone, where we adopt local schools in the community to give 24/7 support. And it's typically 10% of the student population that we see that's causing 100% of the problems. And if you can change the mindset of that 10%, you actually turn around the entire school. So we'll be deploying the team in the local schools in Austin to help get those youth on the right track as well.
Okay. Mr. Washington, you can ask your question now.
Thank you, Claudette. I'm going to ask the same question I asked of 548. There's a lot of great work already happening in Austin by a lot of people who've been working for a very long time. So there's a vision for Soul City Corridor on Chicago Avenue. And there's a vision for overall Austin and Austin Forward Together, the quality of life plan. How does your development proposal, how does it align with those two visions?
I'll take the first crack, then I'll turn it over to anybody else on the team. So we're very familiar with the quality of life plan for the Austin community. I've read it. I've participated in the quality of life plan for the neighborhood that Clio is located in. And so we plan on not only, reading and trying to incorporate the tools and what the vision is for that quality of life plan, but to revisit the individuals who are part of producing that quality of life plan. So, Mr. Washington, individuals like you and the rest of the community stakeholders that participated in that quality of life plan. I'm assuming it was sanctioned by LISC, similar to the one that we did here in Washington Park. You already have a plan, so we don't need to create a new quality of life plan. How do we take that plan, meet with the stakeholders that develop that plan, and then incorporate that into the development plan for the neighborhood?
This question is related to the concrete parking lot proposed, and why not move the parking underground like other proposals, or make it some sort of green space? Because there is free street parking widely available on Chicago Avenue.
Yeah, I saw that question. It was a great question, and it's part of the reason that we have these particular meetings here to get that community feedback. I wish we could have had this community meeting prior to this presentation, but I don't know if David or one of the architectural firms want to chime in, but I'm sure that can be arranged.
Yeah, I would just say that would be the subject of the first community meeting, and to decide these questions of what we do with the ground floor. We would have workshops, we'd have community meetings, and you shouldn't look at this design as the end point. It's really the first step, and we want that community input, and we need it to make the project successful. So we look forward to having those conversations with the community.
And I would just also offer, I mean, it's a little bit hard to do in COVID days right now. We're hoping that that gets a little bit easier soon, but we would love to put a bus tour together for the community to find examples of buildings that you really like as a community that we can use to start the conversation about design. We'd love to show you John Ronan's Independence Library and Apartments building, where he has a brilliant solution of putting parking for the library and the apartments under a spectacular garden for the residential units of that building. And we'd love to show you the building that Tori worked with JJMA Architects on, the Clio building over on Garfield Boulevard. So for us, I will just echo what Tori said and what John said. This is the beginning of a conversation. This is not the end.
I would also like to add at any given point, you can go to the corner of Roosevelt in California, and you can look at the 5-story 90-unit veteran studio that we're putting up on the corner of Roosevelt in California. It's an awesome building, and just shows the quality of work that will come to the corner of Laramie and Chicago Avenue as well.
Will your group invest in solar panels to help offset the costs of utilities?
I'll try that, Tori, and I don't know if you want to jump in. It's certainly something we would explore. The configuration of our building is a little narrower than I think some of the other designs, so we're a little bit limited in how many we could put up there. So we'd have to do a cost-benefit analysis of what we get for the building and for the residents, because they can either be designed to help lower the residents' cost of energy, or they can contribute to the overall building cost of energy. And then there are some tax credits you can get that help reduce the overall cost of development. So we'll do that analysis, and we'll have to make a determination about whether it makes sense.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll add to that is, we developed this project to come in on schedule and on budget. We showed you our sources and our uses. We showed you exactly how much it's going to cost and how we're going to pay for it. So for us, definitely open to those ideas, but we want to make sure that we not only present a project that would win because of the way it looks and sounds and all the amenities that it's going to have, but one that's financeable. And so that's why we initially chose the route that we went.
How do you envision the project's impact to the surrounding community?
Well, I'll take the first crack. I can only speak to experience and the projects that we've done in the past. We've engaged the community every aspect of the way, and we've also created entrepreneurs from the community. And so those entrepreneurs not only work on our projects, but they also work on the projects after the projects are completed. And so I think it'll have a huge impact. I saw a question in the initial, I think it was the first question asked in the Q&A about violence in the community. I mean, that's a real issue that we have to deal with. And the way to stop the violence is to give an alternative to some of the things that the young people in the streets are doing. And so I think we see a huge impact in reducing violence and increasing entrepreneurship and wealth building for this particular community. And I don't know if Cornelius or anyone else wants to add.
No, I think you hit it right on the head, Tori. When you think about, just deviating a bit, just our team and kind of what we bring to the table, being from the community and understanding the needs of the community and having developers who have developed for the community, I think we find ourselves in a unique space. So I think you hit it right on the head, Tori.
And let me also add one other thing that I know hasn't been talked about a lot, but there's a faith community in the Austin area that I've personally been involved with for a very long time. My father's a pastor on the South Side, T.L. Barrett, and I've sat in at a lot of the roundtables for the Austin faith leaders. A lot of times, they don't do as much as they can to reduce violence in that particular area, but you've got a lot of faith leaders in that particular area that are on the streets every day trying to stop some of this senseless violence. And so we'll be incorporating them in an overall strategy for this development as well.
And to that point, our organization, our company, that's nearly $100 million in revenue. We support organizations directly in the community of Austin, whether it's Introspect Youth Services that's ran by Bernard Clay, who helped me get into college right there in the Austin community, or Pastor John Harrell, who runs, his, Black Men United and his church right there in the Austin community. I have supported them directly. I continue to support them. And it's a community that, our team, is definitely near and dear to our hearts.
I don't see any other questions. Any other questions?
Is this is our last one, right?
Yes, for today.
And the only reason why I just wanted to, I said that was because I've been around a while and I've seen this since, I've been a part of this kind of thing since the Daley administration. And so I said that to say, this has been different. And I'm excited that we're finally getting to a place where you hear community voices, because they have been done in silos. And so now to have people coming in, and my heart is racing, because it's very rare that you want to hear somebody from the South Side say something to somebody on the West Side, and the West Side say, so it has been an interesting dynamic. And so I just wanted to just impart that. And Claudette, you have done a wonderful job with keeping us on task.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There is another question though, before I turn you back into the hands of DPD. So thank you, Mr. Crawford. Darnell Shields has a question.
Thanks, Claudette. Yeah, I wasn't seeing the raise your hand option on my screen, but yeah, I agree. I think this is great that we have this opportunity to share and hear from each of you. The only question I had was really, you guys mentioned about, your commitment to engaging community, the Austin stakeholders specifically, based on, how your efforts can align with the existing plans that members of the community and residents and business owners have crafted over a number of years. I'm curious, to know, and even this is to Malcolm's point and others that have spoken earlier, what can you put forth in terms of assurances that, this, you will definitely, if selected for RFP, this RFP, that, you'll definitely facilitate that process, that will actually be, available to the community members to make sure that what is put forth is actually going to align with those existing plans and create this win-win that the community needs, as well as you all as investors.
That's a great question, Mr. Shields, and I'll take it first, and I'm sure Cornelius is chomping at the bits over there to respond as well. And Mr. Crawford, I appreciate you talking about that South Side, West Side connection. It makes sense. Look at the history of the development teams that presented before you. You know, have they talked about it or have they done it? We've done it in every single aspect of every development that we've done. Right now, the Clio Art Residences is a $28 million project right at the corner of 55th and Michigan. We incorporate the community in every aspect of the way. We had young people who grew up in the Clio Center who we turned into entrepreneurs and worked on the entire building. We have another $200 million project at Cabrini Green, where again, you know, we looked into Cabrini. We said we're not going to bring outside organizations over to Cabrini. We're going to find the organizations right there in Cabrini, and we did that. And it got to the point where we had to push back the CHA a little bit because they want to bring a different security firm, CPD. The community didn't want CPD. They had their own individuals who grew up right there in the Cabrini Green area. They said we could protect our own community. And so we helped, though they didn't have a LLC set up. So we helped them set up their company, got them incorporated, got them the right insurance, and they provided all the security. We haven't had one problem. And now we're moving into the construction phase. And through the construction phase, Cornelius's organization is leading that construction effort. And again, he knows that if we're going to be working in Cabrini, we need to hire within Cabrini. And so we plan to do the same thing in the Austin community.
Yeah, I think to Tori's point, you know, the proof is in the pudding. You know, there's going to be a lot of folks. I've been around this city for a long time, living in the Austin community, went to high school at Near North in the Cabrini community, lived there for, 7 to 8 years of my life as well. I listen to the same stories of people talking about what they're going to do in our communities and what they're going to do in our neighborhoods. And when I left, this city to go to the Army and serve overseas and come back and get my degrees and start my own construction firm and development firm, it was something for me, it was about making sure I provided opportunities for folks who look like me in the community. So you can ask around Austin, you could just start there with GMA Construction Group. I probably have about 15 or 20 folks that live right within a 4-mile radius of Chicago Avenue and Cicero that work for me right now. Guys who I grew up with, who would not be making $85 an hour if it were not for what the opportunities that GMA Construction Group are providing. So, folks are going to talk it. Some folks are going to do it. I think Tori and I have proven that we're going to do it. We're taking young men, moving them and women and moving them from the low income to middle income. And that's where I started. Low income and moving folks into middle income. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. And that's what we want to see happen with the Austin community. And there's a lot of development happening there. We're excited to be a part of the stuff that's going on. And we think we can be we can provide a big impact for what's happening at the corner of Laramie and Chicago Avenue.
So thank you, Evergreen Development, for your presentation, and to all of the developers tonight. There were some common themes that emerged amongst all three, and that is involvement of the Austin community stakeholders and how you incorporate the quality of life plan, in addition to questions around housing, the use of the retail space, as well as what some of the programming would be that you offer in the community. So those are some of the common themes that existed across all three. And with that, thank you, and I'll turn you back into the hands of Ethan with the Department of Planning and Development.
Thank you, Claude. Yep. Good. Briefly running through next steps, as Claudette mentioned, kind of summarizing the feedback. But there are a lot of other versions of that. An online survey will be going out shortly for each of the RFPs or each of the respondents. So please fill that out. Again, our goal is to take all that feedback, accumulate it, and then express that back out, that we are hearing and saying the same things that you have heard and that you have said today and tomorrow. So again, next steps very briefly. DPD will synthesize today's comments, chat questions, Q&A questions, and the online survey responses, which will be open for a week following this, incorporate it into the larger review process. And then based on the three factors of community feedback, our internal review, and kind of financial feasibility, create a kind of tiered list of results. I say tiers, that's really a reflection of what we hear. if there's an obvious, 1 and then 2 and then 3, we will say that's what we think we heard. If it seems like there's 3 that are all very close together, we will also say that that's kind of the intention of the tiers, and we don't know until we are, at least through tomorrow. So again, once final tiers have been reviewed, after we get back and kind of review those tiers or see how it's going, select a winner, but then that winner still, we continue the negotiation process, refine the proposal with continuing tweaks. I think you've all noted that each developer would continue to do different things if given the time and the opportunity. With that, I really hope you'll join us all tomorrow. Thank you for the time. We're noting, questions and comments that are still coming in, but thank you everyone for your time and hope to see you tomorrow.
Ethan, before you leave.
Oh yeah, and Alderman Mitz, yeah.
Thank you, Ethan. I just want to thank all of the presenters who presented tonight. Very interesting to hear the comments from the community. We've been working with a lot of the proposals and that's been presented already. I've looked at some of them, some I've worked with, some I gave some comments on, but whoever is chosen from the community to receive the RFP, we have a lot of work ahead of us to do. So I'm here to support my community. I agree with the comments that they're saying. Our community is very unique. We're looking for opportunity to empower the community. We want to make sure that we'll have enough parking for residents and to be able to navigate to the business within that area. We don't want to where we have to look at a traffic study to see. That may be something you might want to consider anyway, given the fact you have the McDonald's and the Baskin Robbins, you have the service station over there, and then the number of residents that you have and moving to and from around, or how the parking is going to be is one of the concerns I've always have about the facility. So I'm looking to hear the other presentations and been working along with the city already. This is not something new. And I'm glad for the Mayor Lightfoot Commissioner to have joined in. I think Commissioner Cox, when he first came in, we took a tour around, and I'm like, this is some of the things that we've been missing for a long time. So thanks to them for being able to bring some type of relief to us. A sign of release and hope is what we're looking for here, even in the midst of the pandemic. So I want to thank all of the presenters, each and every one of the developers at some point, or some of the engineers I have worked with on some other projects, and they all do great work, but we want to make sure we're getting the best out of the best. So thank you so much. Looking forward to our next round tomorrow. Is that right, Ethan? We'll see you all again at 6 o'clock so that we can finish up the RFP's presentation, and then we can move on to next steps.
Yep, same time, same place. As Kevin has noted in the chat, thank you, Alderman. You can use the exact same link you used to get to this Zoom meeting tonight. Use that same link tomorrow. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great one.